I love that. Hello, hello. It is Thursday, March 14th, 2024, and we are celebrating Women's History Month. Welcome to another episode of the Ready, Set, Talk Show. I am your host, Dr. Ann, and I am so excited to do this show in honor of women. I am a woman myself, and I know a lot of times we are represented, under-recognized, underappreciated. But tonight, I wanted to do a show where I recognize some local women to me who I see as heroes. All of our heroes are not Fortune 500 company CEOs. They're not, in mega positions. They're not multimillionaires. Some of our heroes are the women we pass by on the street every day who have faced challenges, who have come through life struggles, and they are still here. They're still pushing through, and they are still doing amazing things in their communities and in their homes. So tonight I chose two women, Miss Georgette Jackson and Miss Hilda Williams, so that I can talk with them, and I want to learn from them. What were some of the things you did as a woman that got you through some of the most difficult times in your life? So we're going to have a great conversation with Miss Jackson and Miss Williams. Stay tuned. Send your questions in. If you have a question for either one of them, they'll be more than happy to answer. So Miss Georgette, welcome to the Red Talk Show. I am so excited to talk with you this evening. I want to start off with you telling the audience a little bit about yourself. Give us a brief introduction of who Miss Georgette Jackson is.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ann, for having me. It's an honor to be on your show. And well, let's see, what can I tell everyone about me? Well, I always tell people that I am a mother of 3 children who have all gone on to be with the Lord. And I have 5 grandchildren and I have 2 great grandchildren. So I am one blessed woman, So I am honored to be here, and I'm a podcast host, I'm an author, and I'm a nonprofit founder.
Yes, a wonderful nonprofit organization that I like how she reaches out to our neighbors, I think is what you call them, and that's the homeless population. So it's not like they are over there and we are over here. We're all collectively together, regardless of our circumstances and our situations, and them being our neighbor. For me, that means, what am I doing to help my neighbor? What am I doing to help bring my neighbor up? So awesome. You just had a gala. What's the name of your nonprofit?
I did. It's Divine Rest.
Divine Rest, and Divine Rest just had a gala not too long ago.
We did.
We did. Congratulations on that. So, Ms. Georgette, tell me a little bit about, as a woman, myself have had the experience of being a single parent. I know you were a single parent raising your children. Yes. Tell me about what that was like, having to have the strength to be a mother, yet have what it takes to just be a woman at the same time, and not lose yourself in parenting, but be all in parenting to raise your children. Where did you find that push from? Where did you find what you needed, and what was it that gave you?
Well, at the time when I was a single mom with 2 daughters and a son, I lived with my mother. So I lived in a household with a mother and a grandmother and a couple of uncles and an aunt. So I had a village, so I had, them there to support me and to help me. But even, having them, it was still, the kids were my responsibility, So, but I did marry my kids' father when they were like 5 and 6. I
Mhm.
married the kids' father. So I did, they were raised, by the two of us, for a while until he and I got a divorce, but they were adults by that time, you know. But having a village is very important. It was important back then, and it's important now to have people that will support you, because being single and a parent is not easy. Because there's a lot of
Right.
challenges that you go through, and you need help, you need financial help, you need that emotional help, that mental help. You need a lot as a single parent.
Right. 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 Where does your strength come from? Where do you find that thing that drives you to do all the things you do, that allows you to put things in place? Like you say, you're an author, you're a nonprofit owner, you have a podcast. And it may sound minimum, but that's a lot, because all of
Yeah,
them take your time. They take effort, they take
it does.
giving, they take you going sometimes beyond what you have to give. So tell me
Yes,
about that
yes.
driving force. Tell me about that thing that makes you be, I'm going to say, the hero that you are in your world.
Hmm. Oh, well, thank you. I would have to give all honor to God, because that's
Mhm.
where my strength comes from. And even though I grew up with, my mother was a single mother, but I always saw her get out and go to work. She was cleaning other people's houses, but she made it work for us. We never
Mhm.
went without. And I grew up around that, just seeing her, just being self motivated and not needing anybody to push her. So she was also a major part. And so how I saw her, then I knew if my mother can do it, raising 3 girls by herself, that I can do whatever it is I need to do as well. So my mother and just the Lord, just that driving
Mhm.
force that gave me the strength, and especially God,
Mhm.
when the times when I felt like I couldn't go on, I had to rely on His strength, because He said
Mhm.
His strength is made perfect in our weakness. So in times when I was weak, I had to just lean back and just rely on Him.
Wow. So you had a model, a woman role model that showed
A
you
woman.
how to be a woman. And we're going to call her your mama hero. Your
That's
mama
right.
hero showed you how to be a woman, and she gave you the tools that you needed to equip you to
Yeah.
be what you needed to be, alongside, the strength that comes from God that takes us through those daily tasks and those daily things that we
Yeah.
experience. And I know that you have been through some difficult moments. You have 3 children who have all gone on to be with the Lord. I
Yeah.
can't imagine, and I would never sit here and say I understand how you feel. I know how you feel. I don't remember when your son went home, but I remember when both of your daughters went home to be with the Lord. And in my
Hmm.
mind, I'm thinking, how is she staying sane? Because on the outside, from what I see, it was like you were grieving, but you kept going. It's like,
Yeah.
I have a loss, but I still talk about going through that period, that season, those 3 different seasons of losing your children, and then getting to the last daughter, and losing
Hmm.
her, and now I've
Yeah.
lost all my children. Tell me about going through that season of your life.
Yeah. That was one of the most difficult seasons of my life. I've had
Mhm.
a lot of losses. I've lost both parents and close cousins, but the children, that was the worst. It was the worst. And I lost
Mhm.
my son. I was 22 years old. He was the baby, and he was the
Oh.
son that I prayed for. And so, and he was born in August, and in October I woke up one morning to check on him, and he was already dead. And they said it was SIDS, that's sudden infant death syndrome.
Mhm.
And at the time when I lost him, as a young woman, even though I grew up in church, I withdrew from God at that time, because I couldn't understand how I prayed for this son and then now he's gone. So I'm like, why did you allow me to only have him for 2 months?
Mm.
And so that was very difficult. But because of, my family and everything and praying for me, and I finally, came to myself,
Mhm.
and and renew my relationship with God. And then moving forward, I'm glad that I did, because then having to go through, later on in the years, with my middle daughter, at having to go through cancer with her. She was diagnosed with cervical cancer in 2011. And at the time, she was living with me, her and her two kids, because her husband was incarcerated. And so I was her caregiver at the time. And so just watching her go through the cervical cancer, that was a very difficult season. And what helped me during that time is because in 2008 is when the Lord gave me divine rest, to go out and help single homeless women. And so
Mhm.
had it not been for me having something else to draw to, and so it's like God knew, he already knew, because he knows the beginning from the end. So he already knew I was going to go through that, and I needed something, to focus on besides, that grief. And I'm
Mhm.
and I'm thankful. When I look back, I'm thankful that I already had that in place, because
Right.
that helped me, helping somebody else, reaching out and helping other women who needed
Mhm.
help, helped me. It helped me heal. Even though I
Mhm.
was hurting, like you said, I was still hurting and grieving the loss of Dee, but having something to focus on besides myself and besides that grief really helped me. And then that was 2012, we lost her. And then 2015, just 3 years later, and then my
Mhm.
oldest daughter, my last surviving child, she succumbed to complications with lupus. And
Mhm.
so I went through 1 year, of going through a long sickness, a long illness. And then my other daughter, it was like that. It was just quick. Went in the hospital on a Friday, and Saturday she was gone. You
Oh,
know.
wow.
So yeah. So that was very the worst time of my life. So it
I
was
can.
it was difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so when you lost your first daughter, Dee, you had to care for her and her children.
Her children. Yeah. And they were
Yeah.
10. Her son was 10, and her daughter was 15
Hmm.
at the time. Yeah. So that was difficult, having to, so I had to like put my grief aside, in order
Hmm.
to make sure they were okay, you know,
Right.
to give them, yeah, to strengthen them. So yeah, that was a very difficult time.
So you had what I would call multitask grieving. You
Yeah,
had to grieve for
that's a good one.
yourself.
Yeah.
You had to help your
Mm-hmm.
daughter grieve because she understood where she was and what was happening, and then you had to help the
Right.
grandchildren because of what they were going through. So that was like
Yeah.
multitasking in grief.
Yeah.
And
That's
I can
right.
imagine that your faith in God probably was shaken, or was it?
Yes. Yeah, it was. It was because, they always say, pray without ceasing, and
Hmm.
so I prayed constantly for my daughter, prayed for her to be healed,
Hmm.
but one thing I had to learn, that God did heal her. He just didn't heal her on this side. He healed her on
Right.
the other side. But I couldn't see that during the time,
Hmm.
because now I'm like, what's going on, God? I mean, I prayed. I'm a woman of faith. I'm your daughter. And I prayed.
Hmm.
You say we pray and we believe, we will have what we say. So I just
Hmm.
knew that when I prayed for Dee, that she was going to be okay. And when she didn't, that really did shake my faith. It did.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how
Hmm.
how did you how did you move through that grief to get to the place of finally getting to the place of acceptance? Was
Hmm.
it the fact that you had to focus on the children? Was it the fact that you had started this nonprofit and that gave you a place to kind of release? How did you get to the place where you said, okay, let me move on to the next day. Let me do what I need to do. Still sad about my
Yeah.
daughter, still grieving my daughter, but I still got to move on.
Right. Right. It was a combination of both. And that's why I always say I'm thankful to God that He gave me that ministry to single homeless women, and that I
Mhm.
had those grandchildren, because that's why I call them my heartbeats, because they
Mhm.
kept my heart beating. Because there was a time
Mhm.
where, to be honest with you, I wanted to die. I'm like, I don't
Oh,
want to
wow.
be here. I said, I'm the parent. I'm supposed to go first.
Mhm.
I'm not supposed to be burying my children, but
Mhm.
we know that that's not how life goes, because it says everybody's appointed a time to die, and
Right.
it just was their time. But a combination of the nonprofit and having to take care of my two grandchildren is what kept my heart beating.
Wow. Wow. And I think out
Hmm.
of that also was a time when your book was born.
Yes, yes. My first book, 30 Days of Divine Rest, yeah, was born
Mhm.
during the time of Dee's illness. Because the
Mhm.
Lord would wake me up in the wee hours of the morning and was downloading stuff into my spirit. And everything that I wrote in that book was what I was experiencing. So it was just straight from my heart, and I didn't think it was going to be a book because I was just journaling, whatever was in
Mhm.
my heart, how I was feeling. And I just shared it with a friend of mine. And she said, do you think God just wants you to keep all this to yourself? She said, this is some good stuff that you need to
Mhm.
let other people read it, because some people probably can relate to it and it'll help
Mhm.
them heal. So that's how it became a book.
Wow. It's
Yeah, that was
amazing
my
how
first book.
wonderful. It's amazing how something that's painful for us can become healing for someone else. And it doesn't
Yeah,
start out like that. It start out with you using it as a tool to heal yourself, but then realizing God is saying,
exactly.
no, this is a tool. I want to heal other people outside
That's
of
right.
you. And
That's
then being
right.
obedient to complete it, you know,
Yeah.
being obedient to
Yeah.
complete it. And then move on. 3 years later, you lost your last surviving child, and now you got to
Yes.
go through that process all over again. Was it more difficult, or because she was the last child, or was it easier because you had gone through it? What was it like for that loss?
It was not easier, because I said, okay, this was my last child, and I was
Mhm.
like, okay, the first two are gone, you know, I'm healing, it's still painful, but I'm healing. And but then this is my last child.
Mhm.
Why couldn't I have any of my children here with me? This is my
Mhm.
last one. Can I at least have kept her? So no, it was not easy. It was actually harder, because I was
Mhm.
like, I felt like I said, Lord, I'm done.
Mhm.
I'm done. I don't want to serve you anymore. I couldn't pray. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to just lay down and die. That's how I felt. Because I said, I'm done. I know I had the grandchildren. I said, but they'll be fine.
Mhm.
They're young adults, they'll be fine and everything. They have other family to take care of them. I said, but me, God, I said, just let me just lay down and just die. Just let me just lay
Mhm.
down and just go to sleep. I didn't want to hurt myself because I'm too chicken to do that, you know.
Uh-huh.
But I said, just let me go to sleep and just don't
Uh-huh.
wake up.
Right.
And don't wake up.
Wow.
So
Mhm.
I can be with my children.
Mhm.
So no, it was worse. Yeah.
Mhm. Hearing your story and knowing your story and hear you talk about it is one of the reasons why I say we think all of our heroes are people that's in the media, but we walk by heroes every day that
Hmm.
we don't even know their story.
Every
We don't
day.
even know the strength it took for them to walk through the disappointments and the hurt and the pain
Hmm.
that we could never
Yeah.
imagine what it would be like. And so to have you be that woman who walked through all of that, who is honest about the fact that, you know what, God, I'm questioning you right now because this does not look what you
Hmm.
promised me, but to continue to say, okay, somehow I'm going to push through this, and somehow I'm going to continue to serve God, and somehow I'm going to come out of this. I don't know how yet,
Yeah.
but I'm going to come out of this, and not only come out of
Right.
this, I'm going to come out of this helping other people while I come out. Tell us about
Yeah.
divine.
Yeah. Yeah. Divine rest. Yeah. I had a dream about that because I had never thought that I would be
We
a
can't hear
nonprofit
you, Georgette.
founder. Had no idea what it was to. Can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
Can't hear you. I think your
Uh-oh.
internet might have went out a little bit.
Let me check.
So while Miss Georgette is getting her volume back, when she comes back, she's going to talk about Divine Rest. And Divine Rest is her nonprofit organization that's dedicated to helping the homeless. And as you heard her say earlier, she started this organization in 2008, 3 years prior to the loss of her second child, her middle daughter. So we hope we get her back so she can tell us about Divine Rest and technology. Some days you love it, some days you don't. That's how it works.
I know. Yeah. Am I not back yet? Hmm.
Okay, Miss Georgette, you can go ahead and talk. I think they can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me?
You can go ahead and talk about Divine Rest. They can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, Divine Rest was born through a dream. And it was during the time, it started in January when I went on a 21-day fast. It was my first time participating in a fast because I was feeling like my life was just mundane. Like I had no purpose. And I knew that there had to be more to my life than just going back and forth to work every day. So when I went home that night and I had a dream, and in the dream I saw the word divine rest. And I saw the scripture, Matthew 11:28, come unto me, all you that labor and a heavy burden, and I will give you rest. And in that dream, I saw a house, and I saw a house, and I saw single homeless women. I saw all of this. So I woke up and I'm just writing all this down because I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it. I just started writing down what I saw in my dream. And so I hadn't told anyone about it. And I went to work the next day, and a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in years came into the office and told me that the Lord had showed me to her and that I had something I needed to share with her. And I just started bawling because I had not told anyone about the dream. And so when I told her, that's when she said, "Oh, you need to do a 501c3." And I didn't know anything about that. I know what that was. She said it's a nonprofit. You need to start a nonprofit and help those single homeless women. And I remember in my dream when the Holy Spirit said, "Go into the woods, go underneath the bridges, and find my forgotten daughters." Said, they're forgotten by society, but not by me. So let them know that I love them. Go with the love of Christ and just share my love with them. And that's how Divine Rest was born. So I just started. I told a couple of friends, and we got some. He said to take some bottled water. So I'm like, that's all. Take this bottled water. And so we bought some cases of bottled water, and we went underneath. The only place we knew at the time was the bridge on off of President Street, and that's how it got started.
Oh wow, amazing! And so, how many
Yeah,
years have
it's 16 years
been?
old.
16 years.
16. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
16 is an
Serving
important
our
year.
neighbors.
Yeah, when you have your sweet 16, that's an important year. So this is an important year for Divine
Exactly.
16.
That's right.
Awesome. So tell us about we talked about your book 30 Days of Divine Rest. We've talked about
Yes.
your the nonprofit. Tell us about being a grandmother and what that's like
Oh
with
my gosh.
now those being your children and grandchildren. Uh
Yes, yes, yes. I tell you, it's the most beautiful thing ever. I said I should have had the grandchildren first. you know. But they are such a joy. They are great kids, but being a grandmother is such a blessing. They are such a blessing to me to, and I thank God, that he didn't take me when I asked him to take me, just to see them grow up and to be young adults and all working and doing great things, and giving me great grandchildren. So that's a blessing in itself, just to see
Yeah.
this next generation, just blossom, and I'm a one blessed woman to be a grandmother and now great grandmother twice.
Uh-huh. Wonderful, wonderful. And you're visiting one of your great grandchildren now as we speak.
Yes, yes, a little boy, Dominic Elijah. Yeah, so he's soon to be 2 months old on the
Mm-hmm.
24th of this month. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, such a joy. And I got my first one, my great granddaughter, Aaliyah.
Mm-hmm.
They were in California at the time. So my grandkids got together for my birthday, well, for Christmas, and they all flew me out to California so I can meet her. And so that was a joy. But now they're living in Texas, so now I need to find my way to Texas,
Uh-huh.
to see her. But yeah, it's such a blessing.
Wonderful, wonderful. I tell you, your story is amazing. You are an amazing woman. We've gone to church together years ago. I've known you for a long
Yeah,
time and watched you, even
that's
though
right.
you go through your difficulties, I saw consistency. So I know behind the
Hmm.
doors, you were able to just let off everything and just be Georgette. But what I saw was the consistency in you, in your walk, in your
Yeah,
continuation, and for that, I applaud you because I can't say that I could have had your same experience and still have the mental capacity to
hmm,
still walk and be all the things that you are today. And so you are, for me, my hero. You are a woman who I look to
oh,
and say, this is a
thank
woman we
you.
need to celebrate in Women's History Month. This is a woman who needs
Yeah.
to be put in the history books. So there will be another woman who will have similar experiences to you. And so they need to know that Miss Georgette Jackson did it. I can do it. Miss Georgette Jackson made it. I can
Right.
do it. And they can still have that same stamina. But before we go, I want you to tell them how can they donate to Divine Rest and how they can get a copy
Mhm.
of your book.
Okay. Well, actually, I have three books. So I have a book of poems because I write poetry as well. So Heart to Heart is the poetry book, and then I have Inspiration in the Morning, which is Mourning, and I wrote
Mm,
that after I lost my last child. So yeah, so I talk about that, and but my books are all on Amazon and BarnesandNobles.com, and Divine Rest, they can go to the website and donate there. And it's
mhm.
www.divinerestinc.org. And they can make donations there, which will go to support single homeless women in our community.
Single homeless women, www.divinerest.org. Let's support Miss
Divine
Joy.
Rest Inc. Divine
Divine
Rest Inc.
Rest Inc. I'm sorry, I'm corrected.
Yes,
Divine
dot
Rest
org.
Inc. INC.org. Let's make sure we
Yes,
support
thank you.
her. Let's make sure we purchase her books. And even if you don't need the book, purchase it for somebody else who may need it. Another woman who may be grieving or going
Yeah.
through some difficult times. And I tell you what, we're going to give away one of her books. So the person that can email us or send a message on Facebook, you can send a message on Facebook to McDaniels Consulting and tell me, um, let's see, tell me when Divine Rest started and how old Divine Rest is this year. So I want to know the year that Divine Rest started and how old Divine Rest is this year. And we are going to send you a copy of one of Miss Georgette's book. And so we're going to run this for the remainder of the week until Sunday. And the first person that can get that answer to me, we're going to sew
Awesome.
into you one of her books of your choice. Okay.
Awesome.
Miss Georgette, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Thank you for being so candid and open and talking about those vulnerable places, those places of pain, and how you got through it, and what you were really feeling. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I look forward to having more conversations with you. I look forward to digging more into what you're doing with Divine Rest. You are a hero. You are an amazing woman. And I believe that the hand of God is on your life. And I believe that blessings will continue to follow you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to our broadcast tonight with Miss Georgette Jackson. Ms. Williams, I think, had some technical difficulties, but that's okay. We'll have her on another evening. But thank you. We will see you next month with another great topic. Make sure you tune in. Have an amazing evening. Be blessed. Be safe. We will see you next month with Ready, Set, Talk.
Real issues.
Thank you.
Affected real people in real life. Ready, set, talk. Real issues affected real people in real life. Ready, set, talk. Come on and talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. Let's all talk about it. 'Cause we're real people.